And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. And as much as I like to play the Buffalo Machine, every so often I like to play video poker too. Mr. Randy Wags at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, it's a San Francisco tale as old as time. The barrier that was erected to keep the creepy Johns away from the hookers on Cap Street has been destroyed yet again.
Uh-oh, I guess the world's oldest profession won't be going out of business anytime soon.
Cap Street's open for business, boys.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is a pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is a very prolific writer. She has a new book that's out, and if I can open up my rundown, I tell you the title of the book. Here we go. The host of the Just Listen to Yourself podcast and author of the book Drawing Lines, Why Conservatives Must Begin to Battle Fiercely in the Arena of Ideas, available online at Amazon.com. You can get her online at JustKiraDavis.com. Kira Davis, welcome.
Hey, John. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, of course. Did you bring candy?
Oh, I always have candy. That's an absolute
Are
must.
you a candy corn fan, or are you yay or nay on the candy corn?
I like the candy corn, but I prefer chocolate. So I've got a bag that has the peanut M&Ms, the plain M&Ms, Twix, Milky Way, and Snickers.
All right, fair enough.
All my bases covered. All right, let's start out with what's going on in Washington, D.C. now, because after quite a while of not having a speaker, we finally have a speaker. The first vote that takes place is a vote that shows the world that we support as a country the state of Israel, and we condemn the attacks from Hamas. Handful of Democrats either voted against it or voted present. And since that vote, we've moved in a couple of different directions. First and foremost, there is a resolution that was put up by Marjorie Taylor Greene that would condemn all of the Democrats for not voting to support Israel and condemn Hamas. Then one Democratic member put up a resolution that would censor Marjorie Taylor Greene for a variety of tweets that she's put out that they deem to be homophobic and racist and all kinds of things. And then there is another one that is coming from Republicans from the state of New York that would expel George Santos for being a criminal in general. The people's business has been put on hold for a while. We finally come back, and this is what we start with.
All right, I'm going to take you way back, in the way back machine, to 2015 when a spry young man, compared to who we have in office now, was running for president, Donald Trump. And he ran in a way that we had never seen before, and it changed politics. And one of the things we said at the time was that what the left's reaction to Donald Trump, particularly in the media, was so egregious and so over the top and so petty, especially after he was elected, that we said politics would be changed forever. And from now on, it was just going to be this high school tit for tat, because that's what the left set up when they decided that Donald Trump absolutely could not be president as an outsider. So frankly, what we're seeing today, John, is just an extension of what happened in 2016. Politics changed. And now look at what's going on with Biden and impeachments, inquiries, impeaching Trump, his trial. What happens when Republicans gain power again in the White House? They're probably going to flip the script and do the same thing. This is now the era that we live in. This has been brought to you by Progressive.
And I'll tell you, to a certain extent, this is kind of what we have in California, too. Although it's a little bit beneath the surface. You don't see it happen as clearly as you see it happen in D.C. because the cable networks all cover what goes on in D.C. and the big city newspapers and those sorts of things. But in California, it's a little different. We have one-party rule. So ideologically, everyone's on the same page because they all think the same things. They all vote the same way. They all come from the same party. But that doesn't mean that the fighting goes away. You're still going to have a competition over resources. But instead of fighting over ideology, what they fight over are the spoils. They fight over who gets what, when, where, how, and why. And then you also have personality clashes. This one doesn't like this one for one reason or another. And it could be something of substance or it could be something totally petty. But they have these wars. They have these battles. And they never forgive one another because it's a blood feud. It's a Sicilian thing. And that's what the fights occur over here in the state of California. We don't really benefit from it as the people because, who cares if Assemblyman A gets a contract or gets money that they're looking for or Assemblyman B gets it. That doesn't impact my life at all. But it seems like in Washington, D.C. right now, even though there are different points of view when it comes to public policy, the fighting is deeply personal. The fight over dumping Kevin McCarthy, for example, there were policy disagreements that they had with him, but you just scratch the surface a little bit, and what you get from Matt Gaetz and other members of Congress who voted to dump him is that he alienated them on a personal level one way or another. They thought that he disrespected their religion. In the case of Nancy Mace, it was some other kind of personal relationship that had a falling out. In the case of Matt Gaetz, I don't know what caused him to hate Kevin McCarthy, but clearly he thinks Kevin McCarthy double-crossed him in some way. You can fight over personal squabbles nonstop, and you may feel satisfied if you win your battle, or you may feel upset if you lose your battle. I just don't see how the people back home have a dog in the fight or how they win or lose.
Well, we don't. Congress hasn't really been doing the business of the people. They've been doing things to the people. Like I said, I think my original point stands that this is really just an extension of where politics has been heading for years now. And the fact that I think you're dead on, you nailed it, that a lot of these beefs are really personal. They really operate outside of what we as the voting public know. There's a lot that goes on in Congress behind those office doors, of course. And it's personal because 2016 was when we really put the cap on that idea of politics being your religion, politics being your personality. And that is brought to you by the left, and we know that that's sort of a Marxist value as well. So because politics became so personal, everything was personal, and then they got really personal, and the left got really personal with their attacks. And then what happened on the right is we reacted by electing people like MTG and Matt Gaetz and that sort of Tea Party 2.0 crowd, because people were taking it personally. And so those were people who were going to go take personal matters into, and it's kind of what we wanted, because it's like, we're not going to let the left just do what they do and go unanswered in the name of diplomacy. Now it's a battle. Now it's a war. So again, I think this is all, none of it is surprising to me. Yes, it's personal, but that's what politics have become. Can we wind it back? Can we go backwards? I don't know. I think the best we can hope for is someone who is intelligent and savvy enough to take care of their personal grudges while getting the business of the people done at the same time.
What's interesting to me is, too, anything that the Democrats use against Republicans, eventually you get to a point to where Democrats use those same tactics against other Democrats. And anything that Republicans use against Democrats, Republicans will eventually use against other Republicans, because when you figure out what works for you in terms of fighting with your opposition, you just go to the well of what will produce the results that you're looking for. So right now you have a Democratic caucus where they're all calling each other racist or anti-Semitic or sexist or fill in the blank. And then you have a Republican caucus where each one of them they're calling each other liberal. They're calling each other too conservative. They're calling each other whatever the case may be. It's deja vu.
Yeah, it is. But again, this is where we are. And you can say, well, Donald Trump brought this to us, or you can say this is kind of where American politics was heading no matter what. I'm going to be honest with you. I couldn't care less who is the Speaker of the House. I don't care. I don't care about the politics of the position. What I care about is having someone there who can whip the votes. And lost in this discussion always is this idea that that person doesn't need to be likable. That person needs to be able to whip the party into compliance when necessary. And as a voter, that's all I want. So this infighting does seem a little bit petty. And I'm not a big fan of Matt Gaetz and MTG. Honestly, I think there's a little bit of a show going on there. You kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. You said, people figure out what works. And when the chips are down, they pull on what works. And Gaetz wasn't always this ultra conservative, but he figured out that it worked for him. And so I get that. I do. And I'm tired of the petty politics. And so, yeah, if it takes some people being petty and throwing a tantrum and causing some kind of challenge, like these elites, like Kevin McCarthy he's always been good at his job, but he hasn't had to fight too much to get where he is. And that's kind of like California politics as well. And maybe it's a good thing that there's this fighting in our party, because it's a battle. It's a power battle. And we'll see who comes out on top. But the conservatives and the elites have always been at battle in the Republican Party, always. So we're just seeing another iteration of this battle. It does seem personal and petty, but at the same time, I do kind of think it's necessary. You've got to churn those waters before you can find some kind of balance for a while until those waters get churned again. This isn't the first time we've had contentious politics in Congress.
No, I just wish, from my point of view, they were having these fights over the border or something along those lines where we can get something out of it. But if they're just fighting over who gets to have the position that they want, it's like, okay, well, what do I win? Let's shift gears here for a second, because there are new polls that have dropped recently from a number of different polling firms that have been testing the election with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as a third-party candidate. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now pulling in Ross Perot type of numbers. He's in the high teens in just about every poll that I've seen. And with him and Cornel West on the ballot, clearly all of that benefits Donald Trump. Donald Trump could win the election this time around with some number that ends up being in the low 40s, which could put him ahead of Joe Biden. Of course, what matters is where they end up in each one of the individual states. And I don't know the distribution of where Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s support is coming from, but clearly he could become a huge headache for Joe Biden. Are you surprised to see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. polling as well as he is?
Yeah, I actually am. I hear a lot of my conservative friends talk positively about him, and people who are frustrated with the binary choice, Trump, Biden. I've heard them mention, maybe I could vote for Kennedy. Now, I would like to remind people who say that, conservative people like me, that yes, I know he's great on vaccines and a couple other things, but he's still a Democrat, everybody. So if you're comfortable voting for Democrats, I guess go for it. But he still holds a lot of Democrat positions. That being said, yeah, I am surprised, not necessarily because I don't think he's qualified. He's got interesting positions, and he definitely made his mark during the vaccine debate, but because it's very unlike the Democrat Party to let something like this get out of hand like this. Usually they would handle this. I've got to think that maybe Nancy Pelosi sort of taking a step back has caused a little bit of hit to their gravitas over there. But normally, I mean, think about Bernie, normally they shut that stuff down early and hard, so there's no issues. So I'm really surprised that the Democrat Party hasn't been able to take care of him yet.
Do you think people are saying that they are going to vote for him and support him because they like his position on the issues, or do they view him as a none of the above option?
The people I talk to, and this could have more to do with the region I'm in. I'm in South Orange County. The people here were very, very upset about the lockdowns and the vaccine mandates. I think when people say I'm interested in voting for him or looking at voting for him, they like his position on vaccines and they like that he is a person of status who challenged the status quo. And that's what they say. I like what he's doing on vaccines, and more than anything, I'm scared that these lockdowns and mandates are going to come back. And he's so strong on that issue. That's what a lot of people are paying attention to.
He made the news today, by the way. This just breaking from ABC7. An intruder has been arrested twice in one day at his home in Brentwood, which is part of the city of Los Angeles. RFK Jr. lives here in Southern California, and an intruder has been arrested twice over a 24-hour period of time. And you say to yourself, this is a family that's had issues with assassinations in the past. He recently had a security breach and scare, in part because the Biden administration will not give him Secret Service detail protection. And now it looks like someone was intruding into his house, arrested, released immediately, and went right back to his house.
Well, there you go. Sounds like the Democrats are pulling together. They're really messing with him now. No, I mean, that obviously he's got the added element of living in Tinseltown. His wife's a pretty famous actress, so he is at a lot of risk. John, I'm going to be honest with you. The Democrat Party that we know, I just can't believe that they're going to let this guy get too far down the road and be a problem. He's going to get taken out one way or another. He'll get canceled. They'll cut a deal with him, something. But I don't see them letting this guy stand for too long. And if he does, it's, because he's mining some of his own family's connections. That's what I think.
Here's what happened, according to ABC7. The initial incident was reported at 9:30 in the morning after the intruder climbed a fence and asked to see the candidate. The man was detained by Gavin DeBecker and Associates, which is a private security company. Los Angeles police officers responded to the residence and took the suspect into custody. This according to ABC News. He was then transported to the West LA station, cited, and released. Thank you, George Gascon.
Thank you.
After being released from police custody, the man immediately returned to Kennedy's residence and was arrested again. The candidate was home at the time of both arrests, according to a spokesman for the campaign. Kennedy's wife, actress Cheryl Hines, was also at the home at the time of the incidents. The second one happened around 5:45 in the evening, despite a restraining order against the suspect. No injuries were reported. Gavin DeBecker and Associates said it had notified the Secret Service about the specific obsessed individual several times in recent months and shared alarming communications he sent to the candidate. The Kennedy campaign submitted formal requests for Secret Service protection, whose approval was denied by the Department of Homeland Security. Why would you not give this guy Secret Service protection? He's had, I don't know how many credible threats against him. He lives in Los Angeles, where no one's going to protect him with law enforcement. If this guy gets killed, I mean, God help us.
Well, I mean, it's clear that they're punishing him, right? He stepped out of line, and he's kept going. So, yeah, they're going to – honestly, it's sort of a crime by omission, Maybe if somebody else gets them, we don't have to worry about them. We don't have to get them, but we don't have to protect them. It does feel like one of those, Nancy Pelosi putting you in the attic office in Congress kind of thing. Just like, this is petty. We're punishing you. I mean, if anybody should have Secret Service, it should be a Kennedy, right? And a Kennedy involved in politics, obviously. But it all does feel like he's being punished, and I don't think they're done yet, because like you pointed out, he is polling surprisingly well enough. I think that some people should be nervous, and clearly are.
Well, he could be the spoiler candidate.
Yeah, and Democrats aren't used to that. They really aren't. They don't. I mean, usually this stuff happens on the Republican side, as you pointed out, Ross Perot. But I think Democrats. I talked to a friend of mine who is a political consultant in Cleveland, and he's consulting on an AG race there in one of their blue cities. And he's consulting for a Democrat because that's all there is in this city. So this Democrat is a moderate, a typical liberal, old school liberal, a middle-aged Irish guy, and he's running against a progressive Democrat. And the progressive Democrat started accusing him of being a racist, calling him a racist on the campaign trail. And this moderate Democrat was so upset. He couldn't believe it. And he called my friend. He said, I can't believe they're calling me a racist. I'm not a racist, yada, yada, yada. Here's all the things I've done. I'm a Democrat for crying out loud. He did not have an understanding of what the progressives have done to his party. And that's something interesting that's happening in the Democrat Party right now. The progressive wing has been slowly creeping up in influence over the years, and the Democrats haven't squashed them, haven't done much about them, looked at them as allies, but they don't understand the nature of that beast. Those people aren't liberals. They're not like Bill Maher liberals. They're progressive Marxists. They're communists, and they're ruthless, and they want power, and they don't care if you're on their, quote, side or not. And I think there's a lot of Democrats that are finding that out, and that's what's going on inside the party. There is a real battle between the progressive communist wing and the old school Democrats.
Kira Davis, host of the Just Listen to Yourself podcast and author of the book Drawing Lines, Why Conservatives Must Begin to Battle Fiercely in the Arena of Ideas, available online at Amazon.com. Kira Davis, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, John.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with 3 o'clock quickly approaching, if you want to keep listening to us, you can do that quite easily.
That's right. Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. Easiest way, though, is to go to the KABC app, search KABC AM in the Apple or Android store. Best way to listen live to this station whenever you're outside the AM radio signal, and the best way to listen to podcasts on your phone or on CarPlay. I just posted the 1 o'clock hour, which, if you missed it, is Tracy Park ripping George Gascon a new one.
I don't know why other local elected officials are afraid or unwilling to stand up and publicly call out the absolute failure that this district attorney and his policies have brought on the city and the region of Los Angeles. But let me be the first to do it. This DA has been an absolute disaster.
She was magnificent.
She's great.
And Randy, coming up next month, we're going on the road.
That's right. Save the date. Come see us broadcast live November 17th. That's a Friday at the brand new Gelson's West LA at West Edge on the corner of Olympic and Bundy. That market, by the way, is having their grand opening Wednesday, November 1st. The West Side gets their very own Gelson's, and that Gelson's is going to have a big wine bar that we're going to be broadcasting live from Friday, November 17th. So come on and see us.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
That's right. We've got one from Will at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com responding to the firebug that torched the Lexus. One fact about meth addicts is that they become paranoid schizos, so it's quite possible he heard the magic AI Lexus commanding him to stop using meth, so he had to eliminate the threat of sobriety. Fortunately, it wasn't a magic talking dog.
Now, that's a creative email.
We do have the best audience.
Randy, we've got an update on the, well, I guess you could call it an effort to fight crime, although it might be a pathetic one. They're at least trying to do something, I guess.
John, did you know a car is broken into in Oakland every single hour because these thieves feel so brazen that they're not going to get caught?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Seems about right.
The Oakland Police Department has a new tactic to deal with car break-ins. They know that 911 doesn't work, so they want to try something new. If you see someone breaking into a car, slide into the OPD's DMs on Instagram. For more, here's KGO.
Oakland police are getting ready to launch a pilot program designed to stop car break-ins, but you have to help to make this work. Here's how. The way to report a car break-in is not by calling 911, but by using social media. ABC 7 News reporter Unser Hassan explains.
The Oakland Police Department has videos to show just how fast it is to break into a car, and the city has seen a spike in car break-ins.
This year alone, we've had 11,300 locked auto burglaries in the city. That's a 36% increase from 2022.
Yikes.
It's exploding.
11,000 car break-ins, and it's only October. But don't you worry.
3 months to go.
Sheng Tao does
2.
feel your pain, though.
You may be frightened, and I know how you feel.
She's so phony.
OPD says it's been focused on tackling auto break-ins since May.
We've increased our violence suppression units to operate in the areas where the crime data shows that these crimes are being committed. We've also brought back our foot patrol units in the downtown area and deployed them where the businesses are, mostly affected.
According to OPD's own numbers, it's working. Captain Casey Johnson says the Hegenberger Road corridor, where foot patrol officers have been working, and along 98th Avenue are areas in Oakland with the highest auto burglaries, in part because of the number of travelers and easy access to the freeways.
Since July, with the focus of our foot patrol officers and our dedicated overtime burglary suppression teams, we've seen a 50% reduction in weekly auto burglaries in these 2 locations alone.
On 2 streets, they've cut down on the burglaries.
Okay, well, the city is much larger than that, so you're going to have to do better.
There's not a lot of them. There's only so much they can do.
But interim chief...
And if they arrest these people, Pamela Price is going to put them right back out on the street.
But interim chief assistant Jones says even more is being done. This weekend, OPD is launching a pilot program where people can report an auto burglary on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter.
Why did Elon have to be all Prince?
I hate the fact that in every news article that referenced something that went out on Twitter, they always call it X, formerly known as Twitter.
It's because only a buffoon would change the name of the app to X.
By using the handle @OaklandAutoBurg.
But if you send that information to
Oakland Autoberg, give them a follow. I did.
By using the handle @OaklandAutoBurg.
But if you send that information to us immediately, we're going to have staff monitoring the platforms, and they'll be able to relay the intelligence or the information to our surveillance teams that we're going to have in the city.
Jones acknowledges that there are many unknowns as to how effective this program will be. Even just announcing it may deter crime this weekend. But he says the department is committed to thinking outside of the box to fight crime.
With the community's help, if they could direct us to where these things are occurring at, with the air assets, with the with the undercover officers, we'd be able to track the vehicles down and make the arrests rapidly and remove some of the luck out of the situation.
The pilot...
Because you can't call 911?
No. This is going back to what the MTA wanted to do, the appearance of public safety, not public safety.
The pilot program runs this weekend only. If effective, it could be used again. In Oakland, Ansar Hassan, ABC 7 News.
This is them waving the white flag on fixing 911.
While you're at it and you're adding Oakland Autoberg to your Instagram, go ahead and follow Oakland State of Mind to see what it's really like in Oakland.
How long have 911 systems been around? Decades?
Many, 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 many years.
Okay. And we've been able to make them work in previous decades with far inferior technology. Now we have all the technology of the world at our disposal, including Silicon Valley right around the corner, and they can't figure out how to make a 911 system that works, so they're trying alternative means.
Maybe next they'll try TikTok.
This is beyond pathetic. This is not even trying.
Well, this is Oakland.
Oakland, on the other hand, my God, you got to be nuts to live there.
All right, that's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back tomorrow at noon for another live and local edition of The John Phillips Show right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.